Hello, everyone. Welcome to the W2 Report Live, the New York State of Mind. I am your host, Sanjay Mura. Crocker Squirrel will join us in a couple of seconds as soon as we flip the script, and we're going to see what we can do regarding the New York Times yelling at clouds like Abraham Simpson tonight. So, what... Oh, that's true.
One of us is considerably sillier. One of those is considerably sillier than the other.
Yeah.
I find Abraham Simpson more capable.
Yeah. What we have here presented to your screen right now is the Kotaku article regarding the New York Times.
The link to the New York Times article easy in there. Mr. Sanjin should actually put the link in the chat now.
Yes, I should. Give me a second here. And there's the chat. And welcome one and welcome all to the stream tonight. Croc, how you been doing?
I am still breathing.
Excellent.
In out. Yeah, all the fun hilarity is still going on. Still metabolizing, especially my coffee.
Yeah.
Trying my hardest to ignore the Paul Joseph Watson video I've been wanting to watch for almost an
hour. Yes, welcome to the stream, everybody. Let's go over the Kotaku article first and foremost, because one certainly leads into the other. Unless you want to go over the New York Times article first.
Okay. Okay, New York Times is worried the kids are playing video games too much during the pandemic. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What did you expect? What New York Times? What did you expect? How about you wander off rather than dealing with the Kotaku article, which is just more alarmism in agreement with the New York Times? Why don't we just go to the New York Times?
Yeah, why don't we get it from the horse's mouth directly?
Yeah, because that would be the New York Times. Children's screen time has soared in the pandemic, alarming parents and researchers. Okay, first off, researchers, this is a question of duh. Screen time is going to increase if you're locking people in their fracking homes. What the hell is that shit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, you can alarm parents. Parents are entitled to be alarmed, but parents should also understand that this is actually that you can't get them out to soccer practice because there is no soccer practice. It won't be. There will not be soccer practice. Why will there not be soccer practice? Because some idiot that is in charge of your state, or some other idiot below him or her, in the case of Gretchen Whitmer and a few of the others, they said that you can't. They said that you should avoid going outside at all times, and in fact, you should avoid going outside so much that the small businesses that would have had small populations on the inside, they're all closed, and we're just gonna funnel you people off to Walmart.
Ew.
Wherein you not only are you exposed to I don't know, almost any damned thing, but you're doing it in forced closed quarters with up to 500 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the hilarious part of that is that under every normal circumstance, you can't gather in groups of more than between 5 and 10. Okay, the schools are closed, despite the fact that there is no, as far as I can tell, there is no significant evidence, and I have not been shown any, that children that actually get exposed to the virus have any significant symptoms, or could even really spread that shit.
Right.
So Anybody under the age of 15 probably has nothing to worry about. And even if they did, really, if you guys hadn't jumped the fucking shark, COVID probably would have burned out. Now it's endemic. And I'd be willing to bet you guys not only knew that, but did this on purpose. However, that's me off on a complete tangent, and at least in theory, being a conspiracy theorist. Of course, nobody knows how that's going to work. Right.
Right.
Nobody knows anything, and I disavow everything I've just said. Bullshit. That's absolutely wrong. Now, you lock kids in the house, or effectively lock kids in the house. You don't let them out. You don't let them go to school to socialize. So your primary socialization methods are going to be YouTube, online games, and other such similar things. Social media. All of that involves screen time. Most of what you're going to be, most of what kids have available to them involves books, games of some description, and even then, that's kind of iffy because you're stuck with with just your own household to play with. Trust me, playing Monopoly with my wife is not a good idea.
Playing Monopoly with me is not a good idea.
That woman is absolutely mean. I tell you, she gets competitive over Monopoly. And then she also has a very, very firm idea of exactly how money works, and she can do she can do those equivalents in her head. So I can't top that. I just can't. She's way better at this than I am. Why? She's the economist. We have all kinds of conversations. Okay, let me get back on track here just briefly.
Okay.
So, those with boyfriends, those children with those people who have the boyfriend or girlfriend, we're talking about young people, of course. They don't get to go see the boyfriend or girlfriend because stuck in the house, and that means potentially somebody with COVID giving it to you, or you giving it to them. Not a smart plan. Trying to kiss someone through a mask is fucking impossible. Don't even try it. It's not, and believe me, even if you were to try it, it's so not worth it. Just don't even go there.
Nope.
Okay. Those kids without a significant other, they're not good. They have no chance of getting one. Why? Because you've locked them in the fucking house. Okay, and a lot of the social activity that most teenagers, at least, go through revolves around the people that they're interested in, and their immediate cliques. So, guess what, folks? You just destroyed the adolescence of 40, 50 million people. Well done, that. You look to be able to. You're looking like you're not, like you don't even want to, or don't even want to go back to anything that even looks like it might have been normal for several more months. Source, if you want to sauce for that, Joe Biden's own words. We're not going to be able to get a handle on this pandemic for at least several more months. He said that on camera, on the air, live. Okay, so you're throwing these kids under the bus. What the fuck do you expect them to do? What else are they going to do? They've got video games. Almost all. I haven't seen a household that has children in it that hasn't had at least one console in 5, 6, and at least the last several years. More than 10. Okay, whether it was some manner of PlayStation or some manner of Xbox or a Dreamcast in one case. What do you want them to do? What the fuck do you want them to do? And every household I've seen has at least one computer in it.
Mm-hmm.
Every one. And then the schools are handing out laptops. You don't get to keep them forever, but they're handing out laptops. So what the hell do you expect them to do? You give them the screens. Hell, my kids don't have cell phones. I don't even have a smartphone. I don't have a smartphone of my own. I got a pair of tablets, but those are for work.
Mm.
My kids don't have cell phones. And you know what the sad part of it is? They're probably the only ones in town that don't.
Oh.
They're certainly the only ones amongst their cousins that don't.
Mm.
Okay, try and stop these kids.
Yeah.
They've grown up on this. They've grown up with this technology. They know how to use it better than you do.
And that's a really poor thing to say, though.
Okay.
It would
now,
be like,
and now you researchers are freaking out because they're spending more time looking at screens than looking at other people. Okay, what's there to look at? Everybody outside's wearing a fucking mask, and the ones and the people that aren't wearing masks are the ones they see all day, every day, their entire freaking lives.
mm-hmm.
They know what those people look like. You want to turn the world into a pack of emotional zombies. You're doing a very good job of it. So these kids don't get to meet people that could potentially be somebody they want to spend the rest of their lives with, or at least the next 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Those that do, their relationships are being destroyed because date night is not a thing. It can't be by definition.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're sending grandma and grandpa you're putting grandma and grandpa from their nursing homes. You're putting people in grandma and grandpa's nursing homes that have either have active cases of COOF, Pennsylvania, Michigan, New York, or have recently recovered from it, which is spreading it. More than 70% of the deaths that have happened in Pennsylvania and New York went into nursing homes and were picked up by people and then taken back out. Most of the people that have died have been in nursing homes, and there is actually research to back that up. We have Pennsylvania statistics outright. Okay, I want to know which brainlet thought this was a good idea. Because the lady that did that in Pennsylvania, she's now one of the assistants over at the Department of Health and Human Services on the national level. This woman effectively murdered a shitload of people, and she's being rewarded for it. Again, what the hell do you expect these kids to do? Please, if anybody's got an answer to that question, put it in the chat. I want to see that. I want to see it. I want to know what the hell else you expect them to do. Okay. You have some comment there, Sanji?
1 second there, Croc.
I know what I need to do, actually. I've done swirled something up here. Let me poke my nose in here for a sec. Because I forgot to grab a thing. I mean, if you want to talk about Schreier, we can do that. I think I'm not sure that my question is going to help anything.
Well,
Did you You did not update your. Did you
It's the
not
wrong
update
stream.
your thing?
Wrong stream.
The one from the disc, the one that's actually in the layer of the Crocus Squirrel doesn't actually work. So
Let me do a thing. Let me do a thing.
you were supposed to do that already.
No. Let's see here.
More coffee. Coffee is good. Coffee is the breath of life.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. We're all happy and content right now.
All right. Actually, the only thing I wanted it for was the chat anyway. I'll just pop that right back out here. We'll close that. I don't need to watch the stream itself. There's nothing to watch, and I can hear everything I can already hear everything that's going on because it's mostly just me.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry about that. Bad habit on my part, I think.
No, that was my screw up.
No. I'm talking about taking over the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
With an extended rant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
We have
because extended rants are fun.
Yeah. Let's go into
even if
the
they do
article
trip over my own
itself.
tongue. Go for it. And yes, Chad, I am still expecting you guys to come up with an answer to my question.
Mm-hmm.
So it is written, so shall it be done.
Yeah. So, day after New Year's, a guy by the name of John Reichert of Boulder, Colorado, had a heated argument with his 14-year-old son. He goes, "I failed you as a father." I mean,
how is okay? First off, long months of lockdowns and shuttered schools. Yeah, you know what? That's not necessarily a failure of you as a father. That's on some level a failure of an intentional failure of government.
right.
Reopen the schools. You will find if you reopen the schools, he'll spend that poor kid will spend a whole lot more time doing that rather than playing around on the internet.
Yeah.
And Mr. Reichert needs to understand exactly what the hell's going on here. And of course, I just did a 15-minute rant on what the hell he just missed. But this guy works for law enforcement. He should know all of this already. What you need to do is you need to talk to your local politicians and tell them that you are very, very, very unhappy the schools are still fucking closed. And if you bitch at enough of them, it gets kicked up the chain. And then you bitch at those people, gets kicked up the chain. You bitch at as many of those people as you can, gets kicked up the chain. And eventually your governor will hear you. He won't like it, but he'll hear you.
Mm-hmm.
See, in South Dakota, they don't actually have this problem because they've never actually locked down.
Right.
The schools have been open the entire time. There have been a few small spikes in COVID cases there, but generally speaking, it's been pretty quiet. And the COVID cases they are catching seem to be people that are passing through or coming into or coming in to stay for a little while. Don't get me started about the derposaur that they have for a premier in Quebec, who has not only decided that there should be almost a month's worth of lockdowns, a month's worth of curfew, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., but that the homeless people are not exempt. in any way, shape, or form.
Oh my God. I mean, I know
That's
Game
right.
of Fright, but go ahead.
The homeless population in Quebec is subject to the same $1,000 to $6,000 Canadian dollar fine that everybody else is. The only time that you can actually violate said curfew is if you work at night or you own a dog and bring the dog with you. You can walk your dog, not your cat, just your dog.
Oh, jeez. And I thought Washington State was bad.
I lived there. It's terrible. It's terrible, but there's nothing to be done for that because the rest of the people in this state, or at least the people on the western half of the state, decided they were going to vote en masse for the existing governor.
Oh boy.
This guy has now entered into an almost unprecedented third term of office, and there is no actual term limit for governor. I'm thinking it might be time to start a petition to change that, because we have an initiative process here.
Mm.
Might be time to start gathering signatures for that.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing to do. Unfortunately, this is not a thing that I can do myself because I don't have that kind of money. It actually requires almost as much money to get an initiative on the books as it does to run for a state level office. It's pretty significant. The filing fees alone are outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't plead poverty. If you want to be politically active, you must have money, especially in this state. So, yeah. Going back over here to Mr. Reichert, his son, James, who is his 14-year-old, used to focus his free time on mountain biking, and playing basketball. These things require that you be able to go outside, especially the mountain biking part. You could theoretically stick a basketball hoop all the way up on the ceiling in your bedroom and like throw balls at the net from your bed, but that doesn't serve the purpose. It is that process isn't even fit for purpose. It doesn't do the same things. So you have to be able to go outside and interact with people in close quarters to do basketball at all. Mm-hmm. Guess what? That kid can't do that. What else is? And then he has 40 plus hours a week of general leisure time when he's not doing his schoolwork or chores. To do what? Drag out dad's porn stash and jerk off? There's only so many times a day you can do that. Think about that for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And heavens forbid what would happen if he actually managed to find dad's porn stash. I mean, seriously, think about that for just 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you need 5 minutes. Try 5 seconds. What the hell else is this kid gonna do? Sit on his ass and watch movies? That's not gonna do. That's the same thing, only different.
Yeah.
At least with the video game,
he's interacting with different, but it's still the same thing.
Rather than just sitting there passively. He pleads with his father not to restrict access and calling his phone his whole life. Well, that's the only way he's going to get social contact. Trigger, Flakebook, all of these other places. YouTube. Although YouTube isn't nearly as effective in terms of actually interacting with people.
Mm-hmm.
you still have those are your basic choices. They really are. Yeah, there's some alternatives. Parler was shut down. Was shut down. Yeah, they just vanished one afternoon because Amazon said, "Up, nope, fuck you. You didn't
Right.
censor this shit fast enough, so we're just gonna censor you." And then they did not apply those rules to Twitter. The fun part of it is there weren't all that many people screaming about how we should be about how certain individuals should be crammed into a tin can and thrown out and thrown into a wood chipper. but on Twitter we had Hang Mike Pence trending for hours. Think about that for 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, 5 nanoseconds. You would the snap judgment here would actually be closest to correct. There is a clear dividing line between Twitter and Parler. Parler they don't like because Donald Trump went there after he was banned from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
The timing is incredible. The timing of that was incredibly sus anyway. All right. This is your show, Saji. Start talking.
All right. Yeah, and basically, Stanford University professor Keith Humphreys basically said there will be a period of epic withdrawal. He's Humphreys is a professor of psychology and an addiction expert and former senior advisor to Barack Obama on drug policy. He said it will require young people.
Can I interject here for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
His recent resume says a lot about his political biases, but we're not here to cover that. Yes, there will be some level of withdrawal, but typically the best way to withdraw somebody to manage withdrawal is to give them something else that serves the purpose. So James here once all the lockdown bullshit finishes up, James here, it would be dad walks in and says, "You, Mike, go, poof, go find a girlfriend." And kid says, "Can I have $20? Okay, here." And then the kid fucks off for the afternoon. He goes out, he gets a burger with some nice girl, and they go hang out after that. Or even if he just goes out and plays basketball with his male friends, he will actually forget all about the phone for a few hours. Then he'll come home and he'll play on his Xbox like he used to. Okay, or he'll take up some other sort of thing. Get him on a sports team. He likes to play basketball. If he's tall enough, then see if he's interested in his middle school sports teams. Okay, there are a million ways to distract somebody from video games. A million of them.
Right.
Okay, but he's talking about this huge withdrawal. This huge withdrawal thing. Withdrawal can be managed. They take people on hard opiates, street drugs. They give them, and there's a drug that they give them, and then and then over time they reduce the dosage until at some point they just don't care. You can give them placebos for 5 years, and they'll come get it.
Right.
And then you just say, "Well, no, I got nothing for you this week." And they're going, "Well, why not? I thought we were doing this for..." No. You've been on placebos now for at least the last 3 to 5 years. You don't need it. Here, have some sugar pills. That's what you've been taking. And these people, they're fine. They're already over the chemical dependence. The only thing they've got going for them now is just this hand to mouth thing.
Mhm.
You know, you get people that there's similar things that you can do for smoking. There's shit, just about anything, really. Just replace whatever it is their situation, whatever their situation is, with something else for a little while, and then eventually they just aren't really there anymore. Psychological addiction is actually worse than physical addiction in a great many ways.
Right. The article goes on to say that scientists say that children's brains through adolescence are considered plastic, meaning they can adapt and shift to the changing circumstances.
This is
And
true. This is absolutely true. And this is where this is where all the fun lockdown shit comes back into play.
Mm-hmm.
If you're leaving them with if you're restricting the number of outlets that they have,
they're going to find
then
more.
they're if you reduce the number of outlets and uses for their time to a small handful, then yeah, you're gonna get kids that are gonna want to play that. You're gonna get kids that are gonna want to do those things, and you're gonna have to work them off it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a kid likes basketball. Great, fine, we're good with that. Okay. One of the things you want to get them is a basketball game. Have them play that for a while.
Right.
And then when the lockdown ends, encourage them to put the basketball video game down and go play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What they're talking about was absolutely predictable. Absolutely predictable. 115%. Hell, 215%. If you didn't see that shit coming, then you don't have a brain.
Just like this doctor, Dr. Jenny Ratsky, a pediatrician who studies children's use of mobile technology at the University of Michigan, said she did countless media interviews early in the pandemic telling parents not to feel guilty about allowing more screen time. Given the stark challenges of lockdowns, now she said she'd have given different advice if she'd known how long children would end up stuck at home.
See, now there is an individual that actually does have a brain in her head. She realized up front that this was going to be a potential issue, but if she had thought for 5 seconds that this was going to go on for up to for more than a year, we're not at a year yet, but we're getting there rather rapidly.
Right.
The middle of next month would actually make a year.
Mm-hmm.
Since all this crap started coming down on our heads.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if she'd known that they were going to be locked up for a year, you would think that she would have made some changes in the way in her advice. Try and keep them as active as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a place to start.
Right.
Engage, get a bunch of experiment kits. That's the thing that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, buy stock in Lego. Um, Puzzle type, building and puzzle type things. There were a lot of things you could have done a year ago.
Right.
Doing it now is going to result in some issues. Because you could have gotten them interested in building a Lego rocket ship the size of Saturn V. In fact, you can build a scale Saturn V out of Lego. There's
Mm-hmm.
actually a kit for that.
Right.
Okay, mind you, these things get expensive after a while. But if you wanted to cut down the screen time, that was when you needed to do it. Now that ship has sailed.
Right.
That ship sailed. It's gone. It was a while ago.
What makes
You
this worse is the fact that these researchers should have known what the lockdowns would have caused. That's the
okay,
sad part about the whole situation.
like the lady we were just talking about from Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Then they went to 30 days. And then all the governors said, "Nope, we're in this indefinitely. We're in this for as long as we're allowed to keep it up." California actually put together a little neat package that said that yeah, those lockdowns are effectively permanent. We don't have to come off the dime now because, well, we don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Their version of the lockdown has been extended into the foreseeable future, or through the foreseeable future. It
Mm-hmm.
might be 10 or 15 or 20 years before the lockdown ends in California.
And even then, what's the damage?
Oh no, the damage has been done.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
The worst of the bulk of the damage has been done. Not the worst of the damage, the bulk of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what was it, some 60 or 70% of all small businesses that were closed as a result of the pandemic, they're gone.
Yeah,
They are
exactly.
permanently gone. There's a bunch of people, once the moratorium on evictions ends, maybe we're going to have a whole new spate of homeless people. We are
Mm-hmm.
going to have homeless crawling out of the woodwork. Why? Because economic activity was stopped and every attempt to start it again has been stymied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you were going to fuck the American people, that was exactly the way to do it. Mr. Trump was what did not want to shut the economy down. And had he not done so, we wouldn't be in half the mess we are now.
Right.
Mr. Biden's talking about $1.9 trillion now, and rather a substantial amount more come September. So
Yeah.
they jacked up the unemployment numbers or the unemployment payouts by a couple $100 under the
Mm-hmm.
last one, and they're going to do it, and they're assembling a new one right now.
Mm-hmm.
Another quote unquote stimulus bill, which is not gonna help. All you're really doing there is forcing more money into a system that is not set up to do that. And if
Right.
anybody wants to know what the end result of that is, I recommend looking at the history of Zimbabwe, Venezuela, several times, and the Weimar Republic after World War One.
Right.
Because at that time the German mark wound up looking something not just you had to have a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a
Just to
loaf
buy.
of bread.
Right.
When in to buy one loaf of bread, actually at the worst of it, it was actually two heaping wheelbarrows um for a single loaf of bread. Nobody wanted to accept the Rhine mark. um Unemployment was absolutely staggering, and the German paper money was worth more as fuel than it was as legal tender.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's gonna. And the inflation is coming.
Winter
There's
is
going to
coming.
be there's going to be a nasty inflationary period for the U.S. dollar coming up if they don't actually start if they don't get the shit restarted in its entirety. All of that shit is just shit's gonna end. You're gonna, if they say you're gonna be here in 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're gonna be renting your shit. You're gonna be happy about it. No, I'm not going to be happy about that. I sincerely hope to be dead before then. Before that actually happens. Okay. Private property is a thing, and without property rights and borders, you don't have a country. Property rights, or excuse me, having borders for your country means that you can having and being able to enforce those borders means that you can have a chance to create some level of stability.
Right.
Okay. Having property rights, the enforcement of property rights means that your population will not create pressures from within. And everything pretty much anywhere that isn't strictly communist. And there are I don't believe there actually are any strict communist countries anymore outside of North Korea. You actually have people that want to stay. They have, and that's because they can have a space and things that are theirs that cannot be taken. It
Right.
actually, and this is actually a thing that is embedded deeply into the human psyche. And if you can't meet that need, you're going to have problems, and not small ones.
Right.
If you want an example of this, something that is getting more and more and more scarily accurate, at least in terms of what's possible going forward in terms of government. I encourage everyone here to read Starship Troopers.
Ooh.
Because the way everything came down for the Federation in Starship Troopers. Don't watch the movie. They don't talk. They don't get into the details at all. But there's an entire history that is laid out for the Federation in Starship Troopers, and yeah, you can actually look at it and see. You can look at what's there and see the last about 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
They tried to build what's referred to as the soft technocracy, where they based everything around social sciences. And said, okay, we're the social scientists. We know better than you. We're in charge now. And then watched everybody else go, what the fuck? And there was a big problem. A very big problem. But this great reset they're talking about, yeah, go ahead and try it, people. You will discover that you do not have a very large population that's actually behind you on this one. You're welcome to try it, but be willing or be ready for
World War
a major
III.
backlash. Not well. It depends on how you define World War III. As far as I can tell, World War III It started back in the 1970s. We started getting less involved in Southeast Asia and more involved in the Middle East. The late 60s, early 70s. That whole area has been in conflict, according to, it's been in conflict with a lot of countries being involved. All of the major ones have been involved in the Middle East for 60, 70 years.
Right.
60 years.
Mm-hmm.
1960 to now 2021-ish.
Yeah.
But that was a major overlap with the so-called Cold War. So if we take the period of the Cold War out of contention, which ended more or less with the fall of the Soviet Union, the next major event we have is the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq and the response to it. That was that I think you're going to find is what historians consider the first act of World War III.
Okay.
Going forward from that, we've been in low level conflict in the Middle East since late 2001, early 2002.
Right.
That's when the real shooting started.
Yeah.
Okay. And that space is the affected area is only getting bigger. Here's a good one for you. What was the biggest effect of Obama blowing Gaddafi to high hell? Do you know?
He created a martyr.
Nope. Nothing of the sort. Gaddafi was Gaddafi being killed was actually one of the worst considered decisions in recent memory. Gaddafi had been keeping the slave trade to zero. Within 48 hours of Gaddafi's death and the announcement thereto, the Libyan slave trade went into full swing, and there were hundreds of thousands of new slaves.
Yeah, I remember
slaves
that one.
were just being taken out of cities. Hundreds of thousands of people were enslaved inside of 2 days. And the slave markets, they operate in Libya now with impunity. Whereas while Gaddafi was in charge, as he was very anti-slavery, slave markets that were located were usually where the people in charge were just lined up on a wall on the spot and shot. Set. You're done. If you're not one of the slaves, you're either trying to buy a slave or you're trying to sell one. Both of these things are a capital crime, and we don't care who you are.
Right.
Those guys went up against the wall, and that was the end of it. The slaves were sent back to wherever the fuck it is they come from. So, yeah, okay. All right. So back to what we were talking about originally.
Yes.
Rather than geopolitics, which is probably not what I should be talking about anyway. Not here. We can do a geopolitics stream if you want. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Although we probably need a lot more time, and you will need to do a lot more research.
Yeah.
Because if you missed that, you missed the questions. You got the question wrong. Or you gave the wrong answer to the question. But
right.
Yeah, as far as these kids getting more screen time, yeah, that was to be expected. Nobody was planning on this being a year, 2 years, 5 years,
or even 3,
or anywhere in between. They were expecting 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, we're going to see an increase in screen time for kids for 2 weeks. We don't like it, but it's a thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to cut this short.
Aw. Did
Yeah,
someone come in and say you had to do a thing?
Yes, they did.
Ah, sad.
Um,
Anyway, ultimately the answer is, what the fuck did you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
You gave politicians power to do all the things, expected them to give it up, which is never a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
They won't do that on schedule.
Right.
Never, ever. Mr. Trump is the first one to actually do that in a while, especially after a single term. And then even then, he fought tooth and nail. Mr. Biden's going to wind up is probably going to have to remove the jackhammer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then to go, and do you expect people that have nothing to do to just sit there with the dicks in their hands? Because it's not a screen.
Yeah.
No. That was never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Right.
Because kids have to, they generally, most kids are self-entertaining, at least to a point, especially if they have another kid to play with them.
Right.
Yay. But we're talking about late pubescence, early adolescence. These people need to be out there. They need to explore. They need to be in contact with other people.
Right.
If they don't, this is actually the time that they need to learn how to treat everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
By means of action, reaction. It's the only way these kids will actually learn. You can teach them the rules of society as a parent, but without practice,
yeah, that goes nowhere.
you're going to wind up with psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to wind up with sociopaths.
Yeah.
Think about it, politicians. Do you really want a generation of sociopaths ready and willing to end you at any moment? That's the bigger risk.
Right.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I advise all of these people to end the freaking lockdowns. Just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You've already achieved the goal of making COVID endemic to the population. It's going to turn into a disease of early adulthood now, and it's going to kill the old. Oh, looky, new strain. No, a variation on the old strain. Trust me.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to have to end this here. That's Lord Crocker Squirrel. This is Sanji Himura. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys soon for the next W2 Report Live. If you haven't been following my channel for a little while, I do put up videos every so often, 2 a day. Stay tuned for the next video announcement, and I will see you guys soon.